What is the key to navigating the urge to punish a child versus supporting them? Hi, I'm Dr. Megan, and I empower people to embrace a neurodiversity affirming mindset. And today I want to talk to you about the experiences we had recently in getting into a routine to go back to school. So as I mentioned, it was the first day of school and my son was struggling to get ready. I would love to tell you that instead of reacting, I paused and offered him a hug, especially with how important I know hugs can be. However, in that moment, I was dysregulated myself and I was nervous that we were going to be late. So I did the next best thing I know how to do, and I took a break and focused on getting myself ready and letting him have his time to get himself ready as well. Had I been able to offer him a hug and had he been regulated enough to accept a hug, we probably would have had a very connected moment and been able to move forward rather easily. Unfortunately, I had not really set us up for success that day, and I'll talk about in a future video what I did differently on the following days to encourage more success in the morning, getting ready, and having a better day. I was honestly kind of surprised at how quickly my brain went to thoughts about punishment and what I needed to do to help push him to get ready and just get out the door so we could get to school. So I took a lot of time to reflect on that and figure out what that meant. And this is the key that I wanted to talk about. Knowing your boundaries, that's the key. Knowing what the expectations are, how you're going to navigate when things are not going as planned. So the key to navigating punishment and support is already knowing ahead of time as much as you possibly can what your boundaries are, explaining those to your child, and collaborating with them to enforce those boundaries. And to go along with that key, when you recognize that you don't have a plan in place and you're both dysregulated, being able to pause and take a breath and recognize that you can do better on the next day and make a little bit more progress each day until the system is working as it should. I'm definitely going to be talking about this in other videos, so if you like this discussion, make sure to follow for more. This perspective on understanding task difficulty will change the way you teach and support others, and probably even yourself. Hi, I'm Dr. Megan, and I empower people to embrace a neurodiversity affirming mindset. One of the things you'll see discussed often in education, behavior analysis, and other intervention-based fields is task difficulty. Making sure we're meeting a student where they are and that we're not presenting them with tasks that are too difficult. However, people often make those judgments based on their own perception of a task instead of taking the perspective of the person they're teaching. For example, I might see a stack of 5 worksheets and think, oh my goodness, that is going to be way too much for my client or student to complete. However, if my client or my student has a preference for worksheets and excels at material that has visuals incorporated, which worksheets typically do, then that task is probably not very difficult for them. Conversely, I might have one question I want to ask that has no visuals involved and requires a very strong attention to detail in terms of auditory processing with a lot of discriminations involved. It might be a question that seems simple, such as, where do you sleep? But for my client, if there's no visuals and they have to listen to the full question and not just listen to the word sleep or the word where, that question in and of itself might be more difficult. There's so many other examples of this I could give based on what I've seen in practice. I'm curious what yours are below. What are some things that you thought might be difficult, but your clients preferred and found very easy, and vice versa? And remember, when you're deciding how to do your programming or teaching, that you're really taking the perspective of your client, looking at their strengths and their preferences, and identifying the potential for task difficulty based off of this.